And welcome back to the Awaken Your Wise Woman podcast. I'm your host, Biz Cush, and I am just psyched that you're here. I appreciate my ongoing listeners as well as new listeners, and I just so appreciate this community, even though sometimes on this end of the microphone, it's hard to know if anyone's listening, but I have gotten some beautiful feedback over the last couple of months about the podcast, about our meetups for highly sensitive women, and I hope to continue the meetups through the summer and beyond. So, just if you're interested, the podcast will pause after this episode. I will probably share some older episodes again, do a little rerun through the summertime. But if you are interested in joining one of the meetups for highly sensitive women on Zoom, typically I do it monthly, and you can sign up for my newsletter because I'm always sending out info about that there. So if you go to elizabethcush.com, it's Cush is my last name, not spelled with a K. You go there and you will see right at the on the page, probably at the bottom of the page, where there's a sign up form for the newsletter. There's also typically a link to join the meetup as well, so you can access it there too. So today my guest is Corinna Wood, and we are diving deep into healing and really using our needs as guideposts for healing. And of course, like when I say that out loud, I'm like, of course we use our needs, but oftentimes we're so disconnected from what we truly need. And Karina is going to share some really cool ideas on really following the seasons to tap into what our needs might be at that time of year. And it's awesome stuff. So I'm excited to talk about that with her. So we are going to jump right in. There is a little disruption midway or really close to the end of the podcast because my internet went out while we were chatting. So I'm going to edit it to the best of my ability, but my audio editor will do a great job getting that fixed up for us. But yeah, we continued on and it was a beautiful conversation. And I hope that you find that too. So let's jump into my conversation with Corinna Wood. Hi, Corinna. Welcome to the Awaken Your Wise Woman podcast.
Thank you, Biz. I'm delighted to be here.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you. I'm excited to jump into our conversation, but there are probably listeners out there who don't know who you are. And so if you could share a little bit about yourself, that'd be great.
Sure. Yeah, so I teach holistic women's wisdom, and it's been a lifelong passion. I really turned to nature even as a child as a source of solace and safety during difficult and scary times with things that were going on. And so when I came into young adulthood, recognizing that I had a lot of healing to do, I it was natural for me to turn to the earth. And the plants and herbal medicine became my first love and focus in the realms of holistic healing. I turned down Ivy League schools to forge a healing path, and I ended up um, starting Red Moon Herbs, which is
Mm.
an herbal medicine company which I ran for 20 years, making herbal medicines from common local plants here in the Appalachian Mountains
Mm.
and for women's health.
Yeah.
Out of that, I was also teaching herbal medicine, and I ended up starting the Southeast Wise Women Herbal Conference, which became the largest herbal conference in the country. I ran
Mm.
that for 15 years. And over those decades, I also was grappling with my own internal healing process
Mm.
and ended up turning the lens of nature and her cycles and the plants' wisdom that I worked with so closely and followed through the cycles of the seasons toward our internal landscape for
Mm.
my own healing process to begin with. And I mapped out the internal landscape centered around our needs with the Wise Woman Needs Wheel, and also other pieces that surround that. And as I began teaching that body of work, the results, I mean, I had like such incredible breakthroughs myself that I was passionate once I got to the place, got my feet under me about sharing it with my students who already were studying with me and women's empowerment and women's health and herbal medicine. And then I was astounded by the results that they were seeing in their lives. And so through that process, it became clear to me that I needed to um, shift my focus with the conference. And I declared that my 15th year was going to be my last year
Mm.
and turn my full attention to writing and teaching full time around this body of work.
Wow. Well, the thing that struck me while you were sharing was like 30 years ago to sort of start exploring sort of more natural herbal remedies, really diving deep into it. Like, I'm not sure I was even aware that about what herbs could do to help me until much later in my life. And, I'm 64. I don't know how old you are, but 30 years ago, it feels like the audience would have been small, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's not true.
It was a lot smaller. Um, I mean, I had some wonderful mentors, and even my mother is a very, she's from Europe. She was born in Holland, and
Mm,
so she just has a very like European and in a specifically earthy way,
mm,
nature loving way, not specifically herbal medicine. She's also a psychologist.
okay.
So I'm not formally trained in psychology, although I have had a lifelong passion. Now,
Lifelong teaching from your mother, maybe?
yeah, and from my own healing process and
Sure, sure.
very extensive study in feminist spiritual psychology.
Mm,
Um, so yeah, I had a lot of hooks to hang things on because of her growing up with her as a powerful woman, Amazon, and um,
mm.
her love for nature as well.
Yeah, yeah. One thing you shared in your um, biography with me that I just love what you say is you're pioneering earth-based, woman-centered tools for inner growth and healing. And I think we're so disconnected from the earth today,
Yeah.
just between, well, all of our indoor living, but our phones and computers and it. I realized the other day, like nature is so important to me, and we
Yeah.
recently moved from a more urban area to a more
Oh,
rural area, which has
good for
been
you.
really
Oh,
lovely. Yeah, it's
nourishing.
been
Yeah.
really, really important. But
Mm.
like there are times where I might not get outside, if it's too cold or
Mhm.
whatever, but it just
Yeah.
feels so important to um, help women, but anyone get
Yeah.
back in touch with sort of the more natural
Hmm.
cycles and
Hmm.
just the earth.
Yeah. When I was recognizing how I had got caught in a cycle of difficult and toxic relationships in my adulthood,
Mm,
I was determined to find my way out and really felt in a lot of ways like my life depended on it.
mm,
And I turned to, yeah, my most trusted nature, my most trusted mentor, as I say, nature herself, to develop these earth-based, woman-centered tools for inner growth and healing. And I kept I got elated as I started applying them because I kept saying to myself, oh, like I'm getting unconfused. I was finally getting unconfused because through complex
Oh,
trauma, as you know, we're, as they say, deeply hurt and profoundly confused.
mm, mm. And I'd love if you wouldn't talk, if you don't mind talking a little bit about, yeah, just healing how the natural and earth-based resources have helped you really heal your soul, it sounds like.
Yeah. So my history is that I am a survivor of childhood sexual abuse, ongoing molestation and sexual assault by a male caregiver as of 11 years old.
Mm,
And yeah, as is common with complex trauma, I was deeply hurt and profoundly confused, and my brain normalized toxic relationships and I was drawn to
yeah,
them. So as
yeah,
an adult, I tended to hold at an arm's length those who respected me and pull close those who did not meet my needs for safety and respect.
yeah.
And I became very ill.
Mm,
I'm glad to be alive today.
mm, yeah,
So for me, threat physiology became overcoupled with the physiology of attachment.
yeah,
Uh, so that self-preservation response around safety and our needs for safety, our innate needs for safety, was at odds with my attachment
yeah,
response.
yeah,
And I know that this is a story for a lot of women,
absolutely.
habitually overriding my needs for safety in a tragic attempt to meet my needs for love and connection.
I can so relate. Yeah, yeah,
Okay. And so the Wise Woman Needs Wheel that I developed is a graphic illustration of our innate human needs. And so tuning into my needs became central and such a rock and a foundation for me to understand why I was having such strong feelings, why I was so angry, why I was so scared
yeah.
and sad, because all of those feelings are guideposts to those underlying needs.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
And in embracing those underlying needs, by putting them on the cycles of nature through the Wise Woman Needs Wheel, through this earth-based woman-centered lens, I was really able to have that self-acceptance around, oh yeah, I do have needs for safety. And that is part of the natural cycles. So that group of needs in this way that
Mm,
I've reorganized, like there's a lot of lists of needs out there, as you know, in various fields
sure.
of psychology or nonviolent communication. And they can be grouped in somewhat different ways or have a little bit different but they all overlap with a very similar group of overlying needs. So
Hmm.
the safety group of needs, in the way that I regrouped them, lines up with Imbolc. So that season at the end of winter, that's halfway between the winter solstice and the spring equinox, and it peaks around Groundhog's Day, is known today as, or it's also been known as Candlemas, around February 1st or February 2nd. But it's not just a single day, it's a whole season between the season of
Mm,
winter solstice and the season of spring equinox. And
mm,
so at that time, our needs for safety and security are naturally heightened because those stores of food and firewood and candles are running low at that time of
interesting.
year. So
Hmm.
this is one of the ways to understand how our internal landscape is reflected in the natural cycles. And likewise, around winter solstice,
Hmm.
we have our needs for rest
Right.
and simplicity and ease and all these things that our culture says, like, we're supposed to be in the summer solstice time all of the year of the
True, true.
creation and the, fruits of the vegetable garden. But
Mm,
we need to, like the roots of the trees, go down into our own roots and rest and have some of that deep
yeah, yeah.
hibernation and restoration in the winter. And I think even as women, just that peace alone around the needs for rest and seeing that in the natural cycle can be a really, really potent place to begin.
Yeah, to just sort of seeing it as sort of a natural cycle for us too, not just that the seasons are doing this, but this is us. Like this is our
Yeah, we
time
are
to.
of the earth, we are of the seasons. And so then
Mm,
there's a group also of needs that I've identified with the Lama season, which are the needs with around love and connection.
mm,
So that's halfway between the summer solstice and the autumn equinox, peaks around August 1st.
okay.
But again, it's a whole season, and it's not just something that we need at that time of year. Like all of this is a map and a conceptual framework so that we can connect with our needs in these various times.
Yeah.
So those needs for safety around this Imbolc
Mm,
season and the needs for love around that Lama season are those two groups of needs that I was referencing
got it.
as being at odds. And so it has been an incredible, powerful healing journey for me to rewire my brain for needs-based consciousness and to find strategies and relationships that are effective ways to meet both of those groups of needs at the same time so that they're not one or the other. And I'm not putting myself into a state of threat by entering a difficult relationship. And I'm
Mm,
really choosing relationships that are healthy for me now.
yeah, yeah. Well, I just love the concept of allowing ourselves to sort of cycle with the natural world cycles, that seems like such a something that we really have lost track of being indoors, but also, as you said, we could be in summer season. I can get strawberries anytime I want, right? Or that's springtime, I guess, but
Yeah, right.
still, right? Like
Yeah.
it
Hmm.
really, we've kind of lost track of where the natural world cycles are in many ways, other than like, oh, I got to change out my wardrobe from winter to summer if you live in a climate-based place. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so, like, the season that we're moving into, as this is being released in May and June, and that as nearing summer solstice time, that's the group of needs that I've associated with the summer solstice season is the contribution and self-expression needs. So,
Mm,
where we want to contribute to the world and have appreciation and recognition,
mm,
acknowledgement, self-expression. And it can be an overwhelming time of year, that summer solstice season. And so this also, if you look at the moon cycle, would line up with the full moon,
right.
or even in a woman's menstrual cycle, for those who are still menstruating,
Yeah.
uh, that it would line up with ovulation time, so that very outward time.
Hmm.
And it can be overwhelming that, when the garden is like all the tomatoes and zucchinis and everything needs to be weeded at once and harvested at once and all the herbs are ready to make medicine from. I think, don't you take some time off during the summer with your
I
podcast?
do. I
Yeah,
definitely
I
do.
love that. Like, that's such a
Yeah.
beautiful reflection of your
Mm,
tending to your own needs in that summer
yeah. Yeah.
fullness.
Yeah. There was a time, I think the first 3 years of the podcast, I did weekly episodes for 3 years in a row. And I
Wow.
realized that is not sustainable. And
Yeah.
so shifted it to seasons. So now I am in the fifth season of the podcast. So
Wow,
it feels,
congratulations. I
yeah,
love
but
listening to it and all
oh,
the
thanks.
wonderful people you're bringing on and just your very thoughtful,
Mm,
calm, sophisticated psychological perspective. So it's
yeah.
really a
Well,
pleasure.
Thank you. It's been such a beautiful journey to get to meet women from all over the world and talk about amazing things, and get deep into subjects like this. Um, so I know one of the, like as you mentioned at the beginning, a trauma history can sort of disrupt uh, our safety compass, right? We lose track of our intuition, our inner knowing, like what for
Yeah.
others who haven't experienced trauma, take with them through their life, right? Um, how do you help women? Because I think this is part of what you do, and correct me if I'm
Hmm.
wrong, kind of help them get back in touch with, yeah, their needs and how to
Hmm.
really explore that safely, I guess. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So much of what gets layered on top of our innate ability to tune into our intuition, which I really see as our our needs being right there, like inner guidance,
Yeah.
and our feelings point us to those underlying needs. Like,
Mm,
but then we get this overlay of shame around being criticized for being as emotional as we are and internalizing these messages like you shouldn't be too needy or
yeah.
it's selfish to focus on your needs.
Yeah.
And so, what my students find over and over is that, like, at first they might be like, oh, yeah, needs, okay, sure, yeah, love and safety and respect and stuff like that. I can see, like, I think I know about needs. And then as they go into the layers of the onion of recognizing, like, oh my God, I'm not even sure that I know that it's okay to have needs. Like, is it okay to have needs? Like,
Yeah.
what are my needs? And the layers of reconnection with, oh my gosh, these are innate human needs that support our thriving. And that my feelings, when I'm feeling difficult or what I call rough emotions, like anger or fear or sadness, those are guiding me toward actually my
Mm,
internal wisdom, which is saying, okay, my needs for safety or respect or valuing are not being met in this situation. And then it opens up a whole another layer of how can I attend to those myself? Are there other ways I can do this in relation, like even in relationship with nature? We can get a lot of our needs met around,
mm,
safety. I was doing that as a child,
yeah.
or around love and connection. And we also are relational beings. And as mammals, we are wired for connecting with other people, other humans.
Yes.
And so having that we have that longing for that connection. And so then it's also looking at what are those internalized beliefs that
Mm,
are informing some of our ineffective strategies to meet our needs.
hmm.
So like I touched on at the beginning, so for me, some of that included I'll always be abandoned, or I need to be perfect to win love, or I'm not enough, or I'm too much. It's very common
Yeah.
for a
Sort of
lot of
core beliefs
women.
that, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
something's
that you,
wrong with me.
yeah.
And so when we're operating with all those beliefs, running the show behind the scenes that we're not conscious of, then we'll tend to choose ineffective strategies or less effective strategies to meet our needs. And so part of the invitation of this whole Wise Woman Needs Wheel is unearthing and excavating some of those old, painful, false beliefs, and then
Mm,
considering, okay, what are some healthy, self-loving beliefs that I can call in, which will inform more effective strategies to meet my needs, resulting in more sweet feelings.
mm. Yeah. Mm, I love that. It feels so, well, it feels like a gentle process, which I think is really important,
Mhm.
especially if you've
Mhm.
experienced trauma. Um,
Yes.
um, but two, to just recognize that you're not broken or there's nothing wrong with you if you've disconnected from your needs. It's what's something that has
Yeah.
happened to you make that,
Hmm.
that it doesn't just naturally happen for some of us because we
Hmm.
had to protect ourselves, right? We had to do whatever we had to do to survive.
Exactly.
Um, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was those were very important strategies at the time, and actually even those internalizing those beliefs, because as you probably know, as children, we like it would be devastating to recognize, oh, like my caregiver is unable to meet my needs and is actually like harming me or something, along those lines. And so
Sure.
instead, out of self-preservation, the child
Yeah.
decides that if I could be perfect, I could win love, or,
Yes.
something must be wrong with me. And so then it is this updating and this coming back and reconnecting with those younger parts and holding our younger
Hmm.
girls within and
Yeah.
letting them know, like, you did what you needed to do then, and you're safe here now with me. And sometimes going and doing some rescue missions into some specific
Oh,
times
totally.
and bringing her back, like, okay, you're gonna come live with me now.
Exactly. Let's get you out of that bad time and bring you back here to the present. Yeah. Yeah. Or somewhere that's safe, that really truly is safe. Yeah. Mm, really beautiful. Um,
I love how you resonate with that. What I call that overall is the Wise Woman map of life and love. And so that is this system that centers around the Wise Woman needs wheel. And
yeah.
it is, yeah, a graphical representation that includes our sweet feelings and our rough feelings and how those relate to our needs, and then our um, underlying beliefs, the old false ones, which we put into the Museum of Old Beliefs,
Love that.
and then the healthy, self-loving ones that can inform those more effective strategies for meeting our needs. So that's
Mm,
a really powerful system that
yeah.
when I like started drawing it all out, I was like, why is this not already drawn? Like, this is just unearthing what's naturally there. So it is
Yeah.
a very gentle approach in that way, as you said.
Yeah. Nice. Well, and I feel like the what I see in the work that I do with women, but also with myself, my own personal work throughout the years since
Well,
forever, um, um, is that when we can relate to ourselves, compassionately and kindly and build that relationship that maybe we didn't get as a kid, right? Like that really safe, kind, compassionate relationship within that is just, well, it's beautiful, but it's also so healing.
yes. Yeah. Yeah, remothering ourselves is
Yes.
is one of the terms that resonates for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's like we're naturally wired to receive that empathy of having our feelings mirrored back and our needs honored and acknowledged. And when we can do that now for ourselves, I mean, just the practice of like, oh wow, yeah, when that situation came up yesterday at the car place, like, yeah, I felt really angry around my needs for respect. Yeah, I hear that you felt angry. I honor that. I really, it makes sense that you would want your needs for respect. Like, they weren't telling the truth.
Mhm. So I apologize for the lousy connection on my end, but I was really feeling so deeply this remothering. I mean, I often talk about reparenting, but I honestly like
Mhm.
the idea of remothering even, I mean, just because I love to speak to women and I feel like that mothering part is
Yeah.
so tender and beautiful. And
Mhm.
yeah, I just, um, I appreciate that part of what you offer to the women you work with is this process of helping them kind of get back to, yeah, their inner knowing and their self-love and kindness. And that feels so important,
Mhm.
especially in the world today.
Yeah. Yeah, grounding into our needs is also such a rooted way of being. And I think it is really important, especially today, and especially with highly sensitive women.
Yes.
Uh, and we can often, there's so much out there in the alternative stuff that, and with spirituality that can tend to bring us up and out. And
Mm-hmm.
so this is really like bringing like back down and in, and even this method of turning to the earth and the natural landscape to reflect our inner landscape brings us to that awareness of our spirituality being like right here in our bodies, and those messages coming through our body sensations and through our emotions, bringing us
Mm.
back to ground into our underlying needs.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Well, at risk of getting kicked out of the internet again, I just
Yeah.
want to be able to say, I just so appreciate your wisdom, your gentleness, but your work that you're doing out there for women in the world. And if people are looking to find you, connect with you, learn more about your program, how do they do that?
Yeah, thank you. CorinnaWood.com is my website, one R and two N's, Corinna Wood.com. And you can also get a copy of the Wise Woman Needs Wheel there. I have a free download so you can get the visual to go along with this conversation. And I also offer programs that I teach to women worldwide online, including Speaking Your Truth, the Wise Woman Way, and the Wise Woman Map of Life and Love, as
Mm,
well as the Year's Spiral, which is a year-long course of study around all of this.
nice, nice, nice. Well, Corinna, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And
Oh, it's such a pleasure to connect with you.
yeah, it was really great. It was really great. Yeah, I just appreciate that. Yeah, you're doing this work out there because it feels like it's what we need right now.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, a few words, if I may, wrap up around
Yes.
this invitation around our needs is also that as we reconnect with our needs, those innate needs in this lower part of the wheel around the darker time of the year that we're often disconnected from, of rest and safety. I mean, safety and respect for women right now is like so important for us to reconnect
Yeah.
with ways that we can meet those needs. And so as we bring ourselves back into that nourished place where our needs for rest and safety and respect and valuing are met, then we can contribute to the world in that summer solstice place from a place of replenishment and from a place of our cup flowing over rather than a place of depletion. And this is also partly where we recognize that reconnecting with our own needs is not just selfish, because that need for contribution is one of the most important human needs. And we all want to make the world a better place. And
Mm.
we can do it in the most effective way when our needs for rest, safety, respect, and valuing are met.
So true. So true. And yeah, good to remember and good to know that, like, I feel like the work that you're doing with women, the work that we are doing with ourselves, like
Mhm.
it does ripple outward. Like I know
Mhm.
often people feel as if their voice isn't enough or what they're doing isn't enough, but I think that when we can, yeah, come enter the world in an energetically aligned way, it's really, really, really important. Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having
Thank you
me and
too.
for all of your work in the world and with women and with awakening the wise woman, because the wise woman way
I
and the
know,
wise
so
woman tradition is what
perfect.
I'm all about. And it's like I was trained in the wise woman tradition of herbal medicine 30 years ago. So when I saw you, I was just like, yes, sister.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Well, I so appreciate our time together today. And yeah, thanks. Thanks for coming
Yeah,
on.
thank you.
I just found that conversation with Corinna so beautiful. Nature is something that truly helps me feel connected with myself, but also with others in the universe. And I was thinking the other day, I hadn't been near the ocean for a couple of days or even weeks, really, because the weather's been kind of shit here. But I just had this longing to be outside, to be in nature, to be connected to the earth. And it was beautiful. I took a lovely walk. We have an amazing state park here and got to see the ocean, got to hear the ocean, got to feel the ocean's power and energy, and then took a walk through the the dunes and the pine scrub and all of that. It was really lovely. So I totally feel her dedication in bringing us back to connecting with our own wisdom through connecting with earth energy and earth seasons. So really lovely. And I think that the more we are able to tap into our inner wisdom and connect with our inner wisdom in ourselves, the more we are putting that out into the universe, as I said, that we are sharing that light, we are sharing that compassion and kindness out in the world, it matters. It matters, especially when right now it seems like the only person's rights that are being seen as true and valid are white men. And to me, I am just feeling that disconnect and sense of unsafety for all of us. So it's important for us to stay connected to each other, which again is why I'm running these meetups, which will continue through the summer, although the podcast will be taking a break through the summer. We will continue with the meetups because as we can. Yeah, I know people take breaks and take vacations and things like that, but I think it's important for this community to stay connected. I hope you'll join us. You can find out more on my website, elizabethcush.com. There will be a link at the top of the page to join the most current meetup, and I hope I will get to see your beautiful face there. Thanks for listening. Thanks for sharing the podcast. That helps us grow our listeners and anyone new to the podcast, I say welcome, but thank you all to the dedicated listeners who continue to show up and share, and I appreciate you. And I look forward to connecting with you when we're back here, excuse me, back here for season 6 of the podcast.